I love comments. I love reading my comments. And one of the reasons why, it's not because sometimes they're funny or sometimes they're stupid and sometimes they get good reaction out of me, but sometimes they're actually constructive or can spark good conversations. And in this case, let me show you my TikTok account, which watch this. My TikTok account has 8 followers and 39 total likes. Most of them are from myself. And I started putting some shorts in there, some of my YouTube shorts in there, and now I'm going to do more and more shorts, I think, and put them on TikTok, put them on YouTube, see how that goes. And on this video that I made, on being a centrist, it's just a minute, so let's watch it. Let's watch this 1 minute video. How hard can it be? All right, let's watch this. Quickly, I don't align with Hamas. I don't align with Israel either. But that doesn't make me a centrist or like doing a not both sides. Because I think there are other alternatives to Hamas versus Israel. And one of them is being pro-Palestine. A lot of my close ones are actually centrists on this, so that's fucked. I feel like saying that you're a centrist allows you the leniency to not be informed on the situation. Because if you take a side, then you know that you'll be challenged on taking that side, and therefore you'll have to be informed. Being a centrist doesn't require you to be informed, so it's easier to take the centrist route. And I think most people will take that. Because most people are not informed on that. The only engagement they have with that kind of, situation is through the media. They're not going to read a book on it. They're not even going to read a Wikipedia article about it. Then they see on the media and they see that both sides are evil, and they're like, all right, I'm not on either side. Oh, it's not as bad as I thought but let me be as bad as I thought I was going to be in that video. The comment I was talking about that was interesting to me, and the one that I believe is a good conversation to have, which I thought I said something along the lines of what this commenter is saying right here. Centrism is taking the side of the status quo. That I agree with. That's yes, I completely. That's a good take. But under AC says, we're seeing a lot of mostly white creators now saying it's okay not to be informed, stay off social media for the weekend, etc. It's so bananas. I don't know if they're saying that in response to what I'm saying, or if they're denouncing it, thinking I'd be on their side. Well, let me give you my take on that. And I actually had a conversation with Bali. Bali disagreed with me on that. So it was a nice conversation to have. I hope some people will disagree with me on that as well, so that we can have that conversation right now in chat, me versus chat. I think it's fine to stay off social media for the weekend, to sometimes unplug. Sometimes there's some news that you don't necessarily want to be informed about. And it's not necessarily because you don't care, but because you feel powerless. And it makes you feel like shit. It makes you feel terrible. It makes you feel depressed. And I do believe, for example, like for Israel versus Palestine, right? I get very emotionally involved, or like it drains me emotionally, that whole conflict, because I'm extremely pro-Palestine, but I think it's like 10% of Americans support Palestine. It's insane. And the media's fully pro-Israel. I think Biden just made an address yesterday or something supporting Israel. And what the fuck am I supposed to do? And I have power in a way. I have a platform on YouTube with the canvas that, I have more power than most people in terms of like, socially. Not that it's a lot of power. It's not. But it's still something. And I feel powerless. I cannot imagine someone who's already struggling financially, as a lot of people are these days, feeling even more powerless and feeling like the best you can do is protest. I'm in Montreal. The best I can do, I'm not in Montreal. I'm 10 hours away from Montreal. The best I can do is drive 12 hours to Montreal to go protest in front of the Israeli embassy. For what? Right? I'm going to spend so much energy, so much, like emotion, time, and for what? And it might sound defeatist, And maybe it is. Isn't it always Sean versus chat? Yes, PF Porlock. It is. It might sound defeatist. And I'm not saying it's bad to get informed and trying to raise awareness for these issues, but I can't blame someone for not doing it. I'm not going to say it's really bad for someone to say, I don't want to be informed. This type of thing is like traumatizing for me, and I don't want to put myself in I don't want to expose myself to that. Like yesterday, I saw videos on Instagram of like Palestinian kids getting shot in the street. And it's like, all right, good night, Sean. I just saw that. And of course, like me, I'm not complaining, oh my God, this situation is hurting me so much emotionally. Because like there's some people who are being shot in the streets. But at the same time, I don't see how me getting involved in this whole, Palestine versus Israel situation, how that's going to do anything. And I don't know how much losing so much sanity and energy to fighting that, how much, if it's worth it in a way. Now I want to know what you guys think. I think it's fine, but blissful ignorance is compliance in most aspects. Yeah. I don't know if it's blissful ignorance, because I'm against blissful ignorance. Yeah, and it's compliance in a way. You're absolutely right. But I feel like someone who knows about everything that's going on in Palestine and the ongoing genocide, they don't, let's say in that context, maybe they don't want to be necessarily ignorant, but they're also super powerless and don't know what the fuck to do. And what are they supposed to do? Apple of Newton says, I completely agree with on this. With who? With the commenter? With me? Apple of Newton. Come on, don't let me hanging. Don't leave me hanging. Yeah, well, I think it's a privilege that we can just shut down our phone and unplug from whatever bad is happening on the other side of the world, why people in the middle of the situation can't just unplug. Yeah, not saying be involved 24/7. I'm saying be aware of this privilege. Of course, it's 100% of a privilege to not be, to just say, all right, I can just decide to not think about it, and then my problems go away. That is 100% a privilege. I think maybe in thinking about it that way, thinking about it being a privilege, I feel like I don't think it's necessarily bad to say I want to use that privilege for my own mental health, instead of saying, it's bad to use that privilege because some people can't use it. Yeah, there's also a notable difference between being educated on a topic and being overly exposed. Yeah, there's also that. You can still, I'm not saying it's bad to be informed on the topic. I'm just saying, yeah, maybe being overly exposed to it might be can actually harm you. And if it harms you and you can't do anything about it, I think the whole situation is doing more harm than good. Because as an individual, you can't do that much good about that situation. I don't believe so. I don't think so. Maybe if there was huge waves of protest for Palestine, which as I said, the stats I saw, and maybe they're skewed. I don't know. I didn't look at the methodology, but it's 10% of Americans support Palestine. It's insane. Froggy says, sorry, my English is really bad. Well, at least I understood you. Apple of Newton earlier says, I completely agree with on this. Left me hanging. Apple of Newton says, with you, Sean, thank you. Yeah, Kaya Bells, I agree with that. I think knowing what's happening should be the bare minimum. Completely shutting it out is irresponsible. Yeah. To go back to the comment here, saying it's okay not to be informed can be harmful in the sense that you don't even know what's going on, or you don't even know the bare minimum. You can't even choose to shut it out if you don't know what's going on, right? So yes, there's an importance to know what's going on in Israel and Palestine, but at the same time, as you said, exposing yourself to a point where it can be harmful, that I think it's fine to just stay off social media for the weekend. I think that's fine. Yeah, you should know what's happening. And I think I'm comfortable with that idea. I think, as Bruno says, I think taking care of yourself and mental health is important. But in the situation, Palestine literally have no one except people. No government is supporting their emancipation. So not learning about the situation does hurt the cause. Yeah. I don't know how much we can do as individuals. I could write to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. I could write to my representative at the in the Parliament, but at least in my case, I live in Canada. Do you really think that they're going to go opposite of what the US says? No. We can share information on Instagram. We repost the infographics. We can send money. But it's not everyone who can do that. We can discuss about it, but discussing about it is really, really fucking hard. Bally and I tried discussing it, and it can be extremely, and again, it comes from, you're privileged, for this to be your problem, but people defending Israel is very, very, very common. So it gets really, really tiring and extremely infuriating. So it's like, I believe much more recent stats said something like 40% support Israel. Yeah, it was 40. Well, we might have seen the same one, Pyranarchist, because it's 40%. What I saw was 40% Israel, 10% Palestine, and like the rest were like either I don't know or both, or like I don't choose. We can look. How many Americans support Israel? Nearly half of U.S. citizens say they are more sympathetic towards the Israeli, and I think this is exactly what I saw. 48% of U.S. adult citizens say they are more sympathetic towards the Israelis in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, compared to just 10% who are more sympathetic toward the Palestinians. Almost a quarter sympathize with both sides. Yeah, the Republicans are more aligned with Israel. Are we surprised? Not really. Would you support or oppose U.S. government providing humanitarian aid to Israel? 70% say yes. To Palestine, 39% say no. Or no, 39%, well, they say yes, and 38 says no. 14 says no to Israel. So, yeah. That's the data, Pyranarchist. Is that the one that you saw, by the way? You were looking for it. I hope you were there when I was going through it. Apple News says, I once decided to be informed about everything going around. For 6 months, I followed national and international news, the crises, refugees, war crime, rape, oppression, etc. Every time. I was depressed, I imagine. It started to affect my mental and physical health as well. I was angry all the time. Yeah, exactly. Of course. Of course that's going to happen. And that's why I'm saying, like, it's okay to know what's going on and be informed by it, but it will affect your mental health and your physical health as well, as you said. And that might actually harm your abilities to change the world for better if you're always angry and depressed because of that. We want mentally healthy leftists. I'm laughing, but it's not funny. That's actually what we want. Israel is also starting a campaign to arrest journalists that report news contradicting the state's narrative. So, in my honest opinion, in my opinion, discussion should be kept alive among us normies. Oh, one of the stats on the CBS poll was that 70% support humanitarian aid to Palestine. Maybe the poll that I saw was they didn't. You say 70% support humanitarian aid to Palestine. The one I see here is from The Economist and YouGov is 70% are in support of humanitarian aid going to Israel. 39% are in favor for Palestine. There also seems to be a general bias of European and Western countries towards Israel, assuming due to biblical connections. I wonder why. Well, first it's because they're allies and there's the whole media machine backing it up. I do believe that the fact that we're fighting, by we, I mean like the Western world, we're fighting brown people, helps, especially after 9/11. Palestinians being Muslims in a majority, they're not all Muslims, but a majority of them are, helps. Well, it helps the fact that, a lot of maybe older generations and the bias against Palestinians. And again, during 9/11, there was people didn't like brown people. And then on top of that, Hamas is a terrorist organization full of brown Muslims. that's something we've already been conditioned to hate. So it's like, oh, yeah, of course. Oh, the brown terrorist Muslims are back. Oh, those are the bad guys. Of course. They've been the bad guys for years. They were bad guys 20 years ago. So it's like a flashback to that. I'm sure that also plays into the biases, especially for older generations. The poll from CBS is from the 19th. Okay, cool. Support for Israel. Biden has shown right amount of support, not enough support, too much support. 25% of people agree with me. Israel-Hamas conflict. Concerned about... Wait, 79... Oh my God. 79% of people are concerned about terrorism in the US because of the Israel-Hamas conflict. I just talked about how 9/11 and 2001 has an impact for sure on the perception of Americans on this conflict. Israel-Hamas conflict. How much do you sympathize with the Israeli people? 51% says a lot. 20% say they sympathize a lot with the Palestinian people. Not much or not so at all, or not much or not at all is 16% for Israel. 35% for Palestinians. Not at all do they sympathize, or not much for Palestinian people. Israel-Hamas conflict. What should U.S. do now? Send humanitarian aid to Israel, 76%. Send humanitarian aid to Palestinians in Gaza, 57%, which is not bad. 48% send weapons and supplies to Israel. Great. Yeah, great. Even Dems say 47% say we should send weapons and supplies to Israel. And humanitarian aid, yeah, 70% say they should. Most Republicans say they shouldn't. We're not going to go through this. As I said, a little bit depressing.